Welcome to 17th century Puritan reformers, John Winthrop and the Massachusetts Bay Colony. This is Melinda Klein. Separatists left the Church of England and formed their own churches. Some, as a response to persecution, became pilgrims to the New World. Puritans remained within the fold. Their aim was to reform, not radical separatism. Yet the lot of these would-be reformers was not a happy one in England in the 1620s. In England during the Middle Ages, Parliament representing landowners, merchants, and bankers, as well as the clergy and nobility, developed as a counterweight to the power of the monarch. By the 16th century, the absolute rulers of the time were Henry VII, his son Henry VIII, and his daughter Elizabeth I. Members of Parliament generally upheld the ideas that the king, as well as commoners, could be subject to the rule of law, viewing the legislative body as a check on tyrannical, despotic rulers. By the 1570s, there were reformers within Parliament that were eager to reform the Christian Church of England. A number of influential merchants, landowners, and members of Parliament were Puritans. With the coronation of Charles I in 1625, they spoke out against illegal rule and were devoted to the cause of religious freedom. After Charles I appointed William Laud to manage the Church of England, this would, in time, drive a wedge between Parliament and their king. In the end, England would be engaged in a civil war. In the end, Parliament won the war, and the king lost his head after being found guilty of treason against the state. By the 1630s, many Puritans lost hope that reforms were possible in England. While the immigration of thousands of Puritans during the 1630s created a New England in North America, they had not foreseen a civil war was coming, ridding the nation of a king and tyranny at large. In 1628, a group of Puritan merchants, ministers, and landowners formed the Massachusetts Bay Colony and obtained a charter from Charles I to establish a colony in the New World, to convert the Indians to Christianity and trade with them, and expand trade into other areas. In 1629, John Winthrop joined the company and within 3 months was chosen governor of the proposed colony. Winthrop, Cambridge-educated and studied law at Gray's Inn in London, succeeded his father as master of the family estate in 1618. Twice a widower, he married Margaret Tyndall. By 1627, he was appointed Justice of the Peace and obtained a minor government job in London as an attorney. However, for Winthrop, by 1629, he had lost his small government job and the family estate was not pulling in the income he needed. At this time, he had 7 sons and a daughter, and he decided to bring his family, in time, to America. America represented opportunities and a clean start. Still, the move involved risks. Nonetheless, Winthrop put his estate up for sale to make this possible. A fleet of ships carrying some 840 Puritans dropped anchor in Massachusetts Bay on a summer day in 1630. It took 3 months of miserable ocean travel to get there. Still, a sinful and hopeless life in England lay behind them. They sailed on the Arabella, with 3 ships accompanying, landing on June 11th. More Puritans were on the way. Mainstream Puritans established the Massachusetts Bay Colony in the 1630s. They combined theology and economics into an impressive social order by tying towns to the church development by means of land grants. However, Puritans put impossible levels of church and civil behavior, leading to the expulsion of many settlers from Massachusetts over time, like influential ministers Roger Williams and Anne Hutchison. The duty of everyone in the community was to see that sin was prevented or punished. Puritans believed that if crime went unpunished, God might punish the entire community. From the first half-century of Puritan communities established across Massachusetts, there were over 40 years of conflict between the Wampanoag, the Narragansett, and Puritan communities at large. By 1637, Puritan leaders were up in arms over Anne Hutchinson. Despite Puritan efforts to maintain the old teachings and the old ways, change of the Massachusetts Bay Colony was inevitable. This was noticeable among the members of the second generation of Puritans, and by the 1690s, the third generation reaching adulthood, this seemed obvious. A new kind of New Englander, the Yankee, had begun to emerge, and eventually his character and interests would dominate the economic, political, and social life of the colony. By 1660, England decided it needed a king again. Charles II came to power in 1660 and James II in 1685. James II became apprehensive about the New England colonies increasing independent ways. In 1688, England went through another revolution, this time a bloodless one. To Protestant landowning parliamentary Englishmen, the fact that James II was Catholic was bad enough, but when he baptized his son a Catholic, he went too far. The Protestant Parliament of England deposed their king. They invited the Protestant daughter of James II, Mary, and her husband to rule in his stead. This is well remembered in the colonies. After all, we have William and Mary College in Virginia. In 1691, Massachusetts received a new charter making it a royal colony with a governor appointed by the Crown. Self-government and home rule was over forever, and the colony of Massachusetts in transition regarding its core character from Puritan to Yankee, leadership from the spirit established by John Winthrop was fading. The Salem witch trials resulted in a number of convictions and executions for witchcraft in both Salem Village and Salem Town, Massachusetts. It was the result of a period of factional infighting and Puritan witch hysteria which led to the death of 20 people and the imprisonment of scores more. The First Great Awakening started in the 1730s and had a 10-year run. With religious piety in decline, touring evangelicals such as George Whitefield performed open-air sermons to huge crowds. A period of Boston's rapid commercial growth is measured in part by the number of wealthy families who live there, constituting a healthy middle-class economy. Yankees became desirous of manufactured goods from England and Europe, such as velvet, lace, dining room table linens, drapes, silverware, and more. As you can see here, being a Yankee trader in New England didn't mean that you weren't Puritan. However, your capabilities had evolved into other aspects over time, such as shrewdness in business that you wouldn't have seen in early New England populations. Yankees created an economy that was supported in efforts to get on in the world, a clear sign that God had favored hard-working individuals. Some historians have traced the beginnings of democracy in America to Puritanism. It is offered that the use of political authority to assure religious uniformity in New England and the great influence of the clergy were essential conservative features of Puritanism.